We can do this. Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. I explore the inside for myself, because we all have personalities, we all have characters, you know, but do we ever spend any real time in kind of looking at some of those traits that we have? It's something that I've always noticed only because I come from such a dynamic family that, I have three sisters. There's four girls in my family, and we are all so different in the way we live our lives, the way we present ourselves, the way we munch on to life, the way we right because I have one sister who's very introverted and she just cares about taking care of her family. I have another sister who, for the most part of her life, was just a go getter, right? And she was an executive, and she just loved that life. Then I have my sister Alice, who you've met on occasion, and she's the entrepreneur, and she enjoys being her own boss. She enjoys that challenge, and she's a reseller, but she works harder for herself than she does for the company that she works for. For me, myself, being a highly sensitive and being the empath, I have, for the most part, been a little bit flighty. I love life. My entire life, I was not willing to sacrifice my my right to live the best life for myself as I possibly can, to create some comfortableness, create some peacefulness in my life, even possibly some joy and happiness, that I was going to create that. But for the most part of my life, I was always a people pleaser. I still am a people pleaser. It's part of my nature, it's in those differences that we have from each other, even within my own family. And I'm speaking for my own self here. This is a role I probably chose for myself. It was probably maybe even dictated to me because it was right. It's kind of like when my mother started getting sick and my sister started pressuring me. Cindy, you and mom can get a house and you would never have to worry about rent again, and really pushed me to be the caregiver for my mother. They really pushed that on me. And I understand now they don't recognize that, there were dynamic relationships within the family, but maybe they didn't possibly understand. Maybe they weren't paying attention. They just didn't get that I really did have a dynamic relationship with my mother, and I was not going to be my mother's caregiver. There was no chance, right? And these were choices that I made, but they weren't possibly the choices that were meant to be made, because I was a caregiver, because I was somebody who never said no, because I was the person who, right, I was living my life. I held on to the few responsibilities and the few accountabilities that I had to, but for the most part, I had already decided I was going to live my life for myself, right? I thought I had enough. The world had offered up more than I could bear, and I was just not going to take any more. But you know what? Didn't make any difference because I still had to take in being my own person. But being my own person offered up, I don't know, something amazing. A little bit of self-worth, maybe, a little bit of self-confidence, definitely resilience, because I was always butting heads in that. But there was something that it offered me that I was not willing to go back to being the caregiver, to being the scapegoat, for being the black sheep, or whatever you wanted to label me. I was willing to hold my arms out and to carry that if someone were to give me the time of day. But that was for the most part of my life. So for the past half a dozen years or so, I've been treading water, and I've been delving back, and I've been analyzing and putting myself in different characters' shoes, and I've really torn things apart and put them back together, and I put them back together in good order, if not in places that they could do some good. I did put them in the order because for me myself, when just like when I bring anything to my house, I go grocery shopping, or I go off to the store and I buy something, or right, anything that I own has a place. When it steps foot into my house, I instantly say, if I was looking for this, where would I look? And that is the home for that item, because otherwise I would never find anything, right? Because I prioritize in my life, and in a moment of walking in the door, it's just, right, taking off the gear and piling it in a spot, and I'll get to it whenever, right? I prioritize in my life that way. But anyway, I don't know where that came from. I was just going to pop in. I got a little bit distracted in the fact that I was having a hard time going live tonight. Something going on with my, right, is I've noticed a few times I've had to shut down my computer and reboot it again. It is time for a new PC, but coming onto my laptop for the first time today, right? Wanted to shut me down in my life, so I had to go back in, reschedule it, and come back in again. But I'm in, right? And the plan was actually just to take the day off, because not properly grounding myself in, well, my own fault, in schedulings. In my mind, I have to-do lists, things that are meant to keep me busy, things that I do have to get done. Not really prioritizing that, just kind of feeling my way around in what I feel like getting done, but getting done nonetheless, right? But in doing that, I'm not grounding myself very well. And I somehow lost an entire day this week. And I thought, well, okay, well, maybe today I just won't go live, because I went live every day last week. So maybe this week we won't go live on Monday. But that's not the person that I am. It's not my nature anymore, right? This is part of part of my life. This is part of my commitment and accountability to myself, and accountability to my brand, and accountability to the people and the beautiful souls that I have picked up along the way, which I am so grateful for, because this could be a very lonely journey. It really, truly could. I thought there was, I don't know, a little bit more camaraderie, a little bit more team playing, a little bit more on the same page. Um, I don't know, but it is in that dynamic difference that I can recognize that well, maybe, right? It's just a matter of seeing things differently. And if I see things differently, how many people out there see things differently and yet don't have that voice or this platform or just the confidence sometimes, the belief in themselves that they have something to say, that they're worth being seen, to have a stand, even if they want. And, I easily could have been that person, right? Somehow I drummed up that courage just in a moment, not in an entirety, but just one moment of bravery or courage. And that was enough to set that ball rolling. And then it was just a matter of practicing in that. And then again, being that flighty person that appreciates life so much, that doesn't want to make those great sacrifices in the things that I might not have ever appreciated or experienced in my life if I hadn't stood my ground, if I hadn't drummed up a little bit of courage, if I wasn't willing to step into some doo doo or hold my ground in something, believe in myself. There's a big one. And these are all new lessons. And these are lessons that I chose to take, right? And I could have chosen something else, right? Could have chosen, well, I could have chosen to keep my TV and be engrossed in television shows 24/7. I was never a gamer, though my sisters like video games and stuff. Not anymore, but they used to. But lots of people love gaming. We all have those things that we love to escape into. And that was a topic of I don't know what it was a topic of. It was a conversation, lesson, something today, right? In those things that we get lost in, those things that we escape to. Sometimes we escape because we're afraid. For me, a lot of that escape was out of boredom, out of accepting the situation I was and adapting and conquering and, right, being creative in trying to have an experience that I didn't believe I could really have in real life, in reality, right? Let me just get my notifications out here. It's my bedtime live. It has been like this for the past little while, but that's me gobbling up my day. That's me doing housework. That's me taking in lessons. That's me, you know, getting together and having conversations with my sisters today. My whole day was complete by lunchtime, in all honesty. I think I did 2 loads of laundry. I went for a walk. I spent some time, picking out an outfit I'm wearing. It was so beautiful today. It was so hot. But then the temperature just dropped like 10 degrees in less than 2 hours. And I can't believe we were going from 30 Celsius and we're just going to be crashing into the low double digits for a couple of days. And then we'll get warm again. Supposedly next week is going to be like summer again. We're just in the beginning of May. It's going to be a beautiful May long weekend. I don't feel bad that May long weekend is coming up and I'm not on the road. Personally, I've never been somebody who enjoys going camping on May long weekend. I have, right? My young years and stuff, when every weekend was like May long weekend. It was just another weekend, but May long weekend is a very busy weekend. It's busy on the highways, it's busy in the parks. for me, when I like to go out to the parks, I like to kind of feel like the parks belong to me, like I'm the only person in the world, that Mother Nature is just me and the bears, right? This is the way that I like to appreciate when I like to go out onto the back roads and do these little road trips or these little camping trips or these little, I don't know, road adventures that I've been doing. Oh my goodness, decades, decades now. You know, it took a short while for me to get over the breakup and the falling apart of my marriage. And I actually went to a social, which is like a big party in a community center. It's where you raise money for your wedding when you're going to get married. It's not just weddings, but you can raise money for sports teams and all kinds of things, right? And it's just a big party. You sell tickets. That's where you make your money. You sell tickets for $15 or $20 to all your friends and family and their friends and family. And it's just like a big nightclub, but made up of all people that you know, and drinks are usually pretty cheap at socials, and it's just lots of fun. And they have Chinese auctions. That's why I was saying socials, talking about the socials. They have Chinese auctions, and I remember my sister and my brother-in-law dragging me out of the house, right? Always trying to set me up with someone. They invited me to go to a social, and I went to the social. I wasn't much of a drinker, but I went to the social just for an outing. And they had the Chinese auction, and I looked at it, and I bought tickets, and I put all those tickets. I didn't put tickets in any paper. They were paper bags, and you put the tickets in a paper bag in front of the prize package that you want, whether it's a trip or furniture or spa treatments or nails, whatever it was. There are all kinds of different packages for everybody. But they had a camping package, and had a tent and camping chairs and sleeping bags and lanterns. It had, oh, I remember it had a $50 gas card, which was pretty amazing. Um, it had so much amazing stuff, and I just put all my tickets into that bag, and I sat down at the table with my sister and brother-in-law, and I was convinced. There was no question in my mind. And when people go to these social, there are hundreds and hundreds of people. There was no reason for me to think that I was going to win that camping pit package, but I knew I was, right? I knew I was going to win it. And they usually make those draws pretty close to the end of the social. And when they called those numbers, I just looked at my sister. I says, "Here we go." And I was so excited that I won that. And I went camping, and I did not stop. Camping is something I've always loved. My father loved camping and the outdoors. It was something that right brought a lot of joy and connectiveness into my life, and it was something I carried on. When I got married, my husband was in the military, and he would have to go out for training all the time. They'd have to dig a hole in the ground, and they'd sleep in these holes in the ground and stuff. And right when he'd come home, and he'd want to do road trips or go off and do things with his friends and stuff. And me, I wanted to go camping. And he said, "Cindy, I'm not going camping." He says, "My job is like camping. I don't want to be doing that kind of stuff in my own free time." So I gave that up. I gave my love for Mother Nature and camping up, and I gave it up. 8 years we were together, probably another couple of years to get over, the whole situation, right? We all know what breakups are like sometimes. And this was my marriage, and I was the first one in my family to have ever been divorced. It was unheard of. Right? I didn't have any friends growing up who were divorced. This divorce is just something that's just been culturally acceptable in the past 50 years, right? So yeah, and so I gave that up. And when I won that camping package, I was in it, and I've been in it ever since. It may have even been the first steps to help in that healing that I so much needed. I didn't understand about telluric energy at that time, right? I know a little bit more now, but thank goodness, right, that I smelt the mother nature, that I appreciated the beautiful landscapes, that I love to be out on the road on country drives, that I had that connection to my childhood memories with my father, that somehow that stuck with me, and I was able to probably pull myself out of something that I might not have ever come out of, right? I am naturally pretty optimistic. I am pretty lighted. I don't stay under for long because I've been under so many times. And at one point, it's just like, as soon as you come up for air from one issue, you're going right back under. And that's all you'll have time to do is just come up for fresh air. So I'm really grateful when I get to come up, and I really do get to appreciate my life. But again, those are some hard lessons that I woke up to say no. And that took a little bit of courage, right? Because at that time I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it. I was just fed up, right? I'm going to live my life. And sometimes you really do have to get fed up with how things are going, right? You really do have to take a serious look at how you messed up your life. And sometimes you do have to go back there and really take a look, right? Because you weren't the only character in that story. And it will help you a lot not to take all the blame unnecessarily. Maybe you are all to blame, right? You're definitely to blame for some of it, but not necessarily to blame for all of it. So if you can have a little bit of understanding in that, well, taking that load off is a little bit a head start into getting some of that other work done. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card here. 2 minutes. First perspective, and then we're going to call it a day. I am in planning Monday coming up. We are going to have a little bit different itinerary for my live shows. We'll see if that does the trick. Been pretty consistent, you know, but it is in that movement forward, and it is getting in better what I'm doing, being more, not diplomatic is not the word, strategic in what I'm doing. Right? I don't know. I'm not a very I can be if I have to, but again, in my genuine nature, that's not my nature. I just much rather just go about living my life, right? But aren't we absolutely, for myself, so grateful that, that I started this brand? It doesn't look anything like when I started. But you know what? I'm okay with that because in this moment, if nothing else, keeping me company in what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for all the extra company along the way. That's the sprinkles, that's the gravy, right? Okay, you guys, let's grab a card. And seeing I dropped this one on the ground, it is this one. You guys, commitment. That is such a great word for just coming off of this conversation that I had. Like I said, my brand does not look anything like when I stepped in and decided that I wanted to build my own following in social media. At that time, I guess Facebook had been around for a little while, but it wasn't for business. It wasn't for creating serious content. It was more like just hanging out with your sisters and your family and stuff. But I wanted to build my brand. At first, it was because, while I auditioned for Big Brother Canada, I was convinced I wanted to get on Big Brother Canada, but I didn't have any media following, and that's important. Even if it's just a little one, it's important because it shows to these productions that you can hold your own in that that creative parts of ourselves that we don't always express. So I'm grateful, that I had decided that I was going to be a YouTuber, right? I had my phone and I have been a phone creator since I started online. All my adventure videos, all my road trips, all my provincial park tours, all my abandons, they're all done on my phone. That's not necessarily true. When I first started out, I had a really old camcorder I used to. It made great video too. But yeah, it's I've been using my camera, but now I just get the very best camera on the markets, and I'm going to continue to use my camera in making content. It's where I started. I suspect it's where I'll end in that. And yeah, the Google Pixel makes awesome, awesome footage. Yeah, so I really love my Pixel. I've been past 3 phones or past 4 phones now have been Pixels for me. I feel safe, right? We all need to feel safe when we are online, and being part of that Google community. I am a Google girl. I'm a Google guide on Google Maps. I am a YouTuber, and I am in the lessons. And when I'm taking those lessons, for the most part, those lessons are lessons that are suggested to me by YouTube and by Google. And that's the truth. And for some of my favorite creators out there, they've also been suggested to me through this. So this is my community, right? And that's my commitment. Doesn't, like I said, it looks absolutely nothing like when I first started. I was exploring abandoned farms and abandoned houses going back to Hudson Bay fur trading days, and I can't believe it that I even understood back then that if I was going to make my YouTube channel, which I decided to do, I was having more fun. I no longer was compulsing about getting on Big Brother Canada. I was compulsing about my brand. And that was an amazing thing too, because that helped me to be focused on something other than what was calming my system down in those things that we get wrapped up in when life brings us down, right? And that's the truth. And it really did save my butt, right? Saved probably $30,000 a year in all truth. I was a compulsive gambler. I have not gambled now. I'm going to have to go back. It's been before COVID for sure. I think 2019 or 2020. So I have not gambled at all. And I was really, really bad at gambling. And I was around um, poker machines and gambling machines and lotto machines because I was a waitress and bartender, right? That was my environment, right? So, and also my dad's attachment, because my dad was also a compulsive gambler, though he liked the casinos and he liked the horse races and he liked poker games and stuff, but it was still all gambling, and it's all epigenetically just passed down in one generation to another, right? So grateful that I get to be the example in my family because I'm not the only gambler in my family. So I get to be that example that it can be done, that we don't need those machines. But, you know, I only got off of that. Well, number one, COVID gave me a little bit of a head start, right? Because we got locked down. I couldn't go sit in the casino or the bars and play the slot machines. And number two, my commitment to my brand, right? My commitment to my brand. What does it say here? Commitment is the choice that has to happen, right? What you don't change, you choose. That just popped into my head, and it's funny because that quote popped into my head earlier this afternoon. That was my commitment, and I didn't change in that. I choose my brain. Everything else I am willing, right? I try not to butt heads. I try not to be stubborn. I try not to be self-controlling, controlling of others, sometimes in my hypervigilance, but I am fair and I am just and I am attentive in what needs to be done in that great designation, right? I'm a great designator that way, right? People wouldn't do what I ask them unless they trust me, right? And that's part of that leadership. And you heard me talk lots this year, right? Some of you might have even heard or felt an inkling as to what I was going to try to do, right? But I really do try to follow my intuition in things, and I try to cushion underneath anything that I think that might be a little bit difficult, a little bit painful, a little bit uncomfortable in that fall. But I am committed to make those decisions, right? But that doesn't stop me from trying to make it as unpainful and undifficult as I possibly can, right? That is in that adapt and conquer. And it has worked for me because I am in I'm in now my 11th year on YouTube. Isn't that incredible, you guys? 11 years. Lots of ups and downs, lots of scary moments, but there were lots of ups and downs in my life, and there were lots of scary things going on in my life. And I was so grateful for my YouTube channel. I was so grateful for the company of my YouTube channel. And I'm so grateful for the come alongs of the people who appreciated hanging out with me on my channel, right? And that all came from the commitment, right? The commitment to it. Yeah, that's a great word because if there was anything going on in my life that I know that when I'm 80 years old, I'll still be doing, or at the very least trying to do, because we never know what the trip ups are, right? I lost my vehicle. I adapted. I conquered, didn't I? And look at me. I'm still here, you guys. I explore the inside and the outside. These days, a little bit more of the inside. But I'm still exploring the outside. It's just probably a little bit more personal to me, right? I think that's what that is. You guys, that's my good cheer. And we'll see you.